First $100,000 is the hardest money you'll ever make. But once you cross it, everything changes. Think about it. Before you hit that milestone, every dollar feels like a fight. Rent, bills, food, gas, credit cards. It feels like money slips away before you even touch it. The pressure never stops. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole at the bottom. Now picture the opposite. You have $100,000 saved, not invested in a risky stock or tied up in something you don't understand, but sitting there, backing you up. Suddenly, you're not desperate. You're not just surviving, you're breathing. That first $100,000 isn't about showing off. It's about security. It's about peace of mind. It's the feeling of not panicking when your car breaks down or when your boss says the company might downsize. Most people never get there. Why? Because they underestimate how powerful the first milestone really is. They think it's impossible. They think only the rich can save that much. So they give up before they even try. But let's flip the question. What if instead of focusing on how hard it is, you asked yourself, what changes after I hit it? That's where the story turns. The first $100,000 makes your money work for you. It's no longer just you trading hours for dollars. Now the dollars you've saved start earning their own dollars. That's compound growth. That's leverage. Imagine you have $100,000 invested in a simple index fund. If it grows just 7% in a year, that's $7,000. That's more than most people save in 12 months of hard work. Now your money is doing the heavy lifting. And that changes your mindset completely. Think of two people. One has $2,000 in savings. The other has $100,000. Both lose their job tomorrow. Who's calm and who's terrified? That's the difference. This isn't about luck. It's about daily choices. It's about spending less than you earn, refusing to drown in debt, and learning how money actually works. It's about building habits that most people avoid because they're uncomfortable. And here's the thing. Once you hit the first $100,000, the second comes faster, the third even faster. It's like pushing a heavy car. The hardest part is getting it to move. Once it rolls, momentum carries it forward. So how do you actually go from 0 to 6 figures saved? What steps do you take when the bills are high, your income feels small, and the world is telling you it's impossible? Stick around, because I'm going to give you a step-by-step playbook that shows exactly how to build your wealth mindset, one habit at a time. And these are habits anyone can apply, whether you're in your 20s just starting out or in your 40s trying to reset your financial life. This is the passive path. Here we make money simple. And if you're ready to change your financial future, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about where you're starting from today. Let's dive in. Money does buy happiness. Not the fake kind you see in commercials with fancy cars and yachts, but the kind that takes away 90% of your daily stress. Think about the last time you had an unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, even something as small as a broken phone. If you had the money ready, it was a problem solved in minutes. If you didn't, it probably kept you up at night. Money gives you choices. It lets you leave a toxic job. It lets you move to a safer neighborhood. It lets you help your family without asking anyone else for permission. It lets you say yes to opportunities and no to situations that drain you. That's real happiness. It's not about showing off, it's about freedom. In North America, look at the way families choose neighborhoods. A family with savings can choose a place with better schools, lower crime, and healthier surroundings. That decision shapes their children's future for decades. That's money buying happiness in a direct and measurable way. Now, there's a trap here. Obsession with money. Chasing money for its own sake is a game you can't win, because no matter how much you have, someone else will always have more. Obsession creates joy when you're up and despair when you're down. It becomes a roller coaster that controls your life. The wealthy don't treat money as the end goal. They treat it as fuel. Fuel for freedom. Fuel for choices. Fuel for a better life. If you ever feel guilty about wanting more money, let that go. You're not selfish for wanting security. You're not greedy for wanting freedom. You're building the foundation for a life where stress doesn't control you. Imagine two friends. One makes just enough to get by, but never save. The other puts away 10% of every paycheck. 5 years later, both face a sudden layoff. The first friend panics. The second takes a vacation, resets, and looks for a better job without fear. That's not luck. That's money buying peace of mind. So don't apologize for wanting to earn more. Don't apologize for wanting stability. The truth is simple. Money can't fix every problem, but it removes most of the ones that keep you awake at night. The The question is, how do you go from wanting money to actually building wealth? The answer starts with being willing to fail, because failure, not fear, is the real starting point of growth. Failure is not the enemy. Fear of failure is. Most people avoid risks because they're afraid of what others will think. They're afraid of losing money, they're afraid of looking foolish, so they play it safe. And playing it safe keeps them stuck. The truth is, failure is a tuition fee you pay for learning. Every setback teaches you something no book or course can. Every mistake builds a skill you carry for life. Think about the story of a young investor whose father gave him money to trade stocks. The father told him, "If you lose it all, that's fine. Whatever you make is yours." That freedom changed everything. It removed fear and replaced it with curiosity. That's how confidence is built. Now bring it closer to home. Imagine a professional in their 30s stuck in a job they hate. They dream of switching careers, but fear says, what if you fail? If they never take the leap, the dream stays a dream. But if they try, even if they stumble, they learn, adapt, and eventually find work that excites them. Failure opens doors that fear keeps locked. Starting a side business might not make you rich right away, but you'll learn skills in sales, marketing, and discipline that carry into every part of your life. Moving to a new city for a better opportunity might feel risky, but even if it doesn't work out, the network and experience stay with you forever. In North America, many entrepreneurs failed multiple times before striking gold. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job because his editor said he lacked imagination. Henry Ford went bankrupt twice before building the company that changed the auto industry. They didn't escape failure, they embraced it. The wealthy understand this truth. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the cost of admission to success. If you're unwilling to fail, you'll never take the risks that lead to breakthroughs. But once you accept failure as part of the journey, you become unstoppable. So ask yourself, what's one risk you've been avoiding because of fear? What's one step you can take this week that might not work but could change everything if it does? Because the real cost of never failing is never growing, and growth is where wealth begins. When you stop fearing failure, the next challenge is learning to detach yourself from the outcome. Work hard, but let go of the result. That sounds simple, but it changes everything. Most people focus only on the outcome. How much money will I make? When will I get the promotion? How fast will this investment grow? The problem is, when you obsess over the result, your effort suffers. You cut corners. You burn out. You lose focus on the process. Detaching from the outcome means this. You give your best effort every day. You build skills. You put in consistent work. And you let the results take care of themselves. Think about an athlete training for a big competition. If they only think about winning the medal, they'll stress over every small setback. But if they focus on daily training, sleep, diet, practice, they perform at their best. The medal becomes a byproduct of the process. The same applies to money. If you only care about the paycheck, you'll take jobs you hate. If you only care about the profit, you'll chase risky trades. But if you focus on building real skills, serving others, and providing value, money follows naturally. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care about the work more than the reward. And paradoxically, that's when rewards grow. Look at someone building a side hustle. If they obsess over earning $10,000 in the first month, they'll quit fast. But if they focus on creating good products, improving service, and learning the craft, the money will come. Slow at first, then faster than expected. This mindset shift also brings peace, because when you're detached from outcomes, failure doesn't sting as much. A business idea didn't work, you still gained experience. An investment didn't grow, you still gained knowledge. The process itself becomes valuable. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a teaching, you have the right to your labor, not the fruits of your labor. It's timeless wisdom, and it applies just as much to wealth as it does to life. So the next time you put in work, ask yourself, am I chasing the outcome or am I focused on the input? Because the quality of the input is what eventually drives the output. When you master detachment, the pressure lifts. You free yourself from short-term thinking. You start playing the long game, and the long game is where real wealth is built. Once you learn to detach, the next step is building a scorecard that only you control. Most people live by an external scorecard. They measure success by what others think. The car they drive, the house they buy, the title on their business card. But the wealthy think differently. They live by an inner scorecard. They decide what matters, not society. They define success in their own terms. Warren Buffett talks about this often. He says if you spend less than you earn, avoid debt, and invest wisely, you'll become wealthy. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need validation. You just need discipline. Take a common example in North America. A family making $80,000 a year. One family spends every raise on a bigger house and nicer cars. The other family keeps expenses stable, saves, and invests. 20 years later, one family has debt and stress. The other has financial freedom. That's the power of the inner scorecard. Your scorecard might value time over money. It might prioritize freedom over luxury. It might mean choosing a smaller home so you can save for early retirement. It might mean saying no to expensive vacations because you'd rather build a business. When you live by an inner scorecard, you stop chasing symbols of wealth. You stop caring what neighbors or coworkers think, and you start building real wealth that aligns with your values. Ask yourself a simple question. If no one could see what you own, how would you define success? Would you still buy that car? Would you still upgrade your house? Or would you focus on building assets, savings, and freedom? Living by an inner scorecard also reduces financial stress because you're not trying to keep up with anyone else. You're not in a race you didn't choose. You're walking your own path. This is where wealth creation becomes sustainable, because when success is defined by your values, you don't get distracted. You don't sabotage your progress chasing someone else's dream. And that's when your money begins to compound in peace. When you build your own scorecard, you stop living for applause. You start living for freedom. The next habit takes this mindset further. It's the ability to think bigger and play the game of upside. Wealthy people don't just look at what they might lose. They focus on what they could gain. Every decision has two sides, the downside and the upside. The average person only sees the risk. What if I lose money? What if this doesn't work? So they stay small. The wealthy flip the question, what if this succeeds? What if the return is 10 times bigger than the risk? They accept that small losses are possible, but they also recognize that massive gains are possible. Think about investing. You put money into a stock, the worst case, maybe it drops 20 or 30%. The best case, it triples or even goes higher. One good investment can outweigh several small losses. Look at real examples. In the early 2000s, a $1,000 investment in Apple would be worth hundreds of thousands today. In 1997, a $1,000 investment in Amazon is now worth millions. Most people avoided those risks because they feared losing. But the ones who thought bigger and saw the upside built life-changing wealth. This doesn't only apply to stocks. Starting a side hustle has a small downside. You might waste a little time and money, but the upside could be a business that replaces your job. Learning a new skill might cost a few weekends, but the upside is higher income for the rest of your career. Thinking big is not about being reckless. It's about understanding the balance of risk and reward. It's about playing games where the upside is massive and the downside is manageable. Ask yourself this: what's the worst that can happen if you take a chance? Now, what's the best that can happen if it works? Most of the time, the best case scenario is far more powerful than the worst case. This is how the wealthy play the game. They don't gamble, they don't chase everything. But when they see an opportunity with huge upside and limited downside, they go all in. If you want to build wealth, stop only looking at the risk. Start asking, what's the potential reward? Because one bold decision can change your entire financial future. Once you learn to think big, the next step is shifting your energy from consuming to creating. Most people spend their free time consuming. They scroll through social media, they binge watch shows, they buy things they don't need. Wealthy people spend their free time creating. They create businesses, they create content, they create products. They create skills that make them more valuable. Consumption gives you short-term pleasure. Creation gives you long-term growth. Look at the numbers. Studies show that 70% of wealthy people spend less than an hour a day watching TV. They spend that time reading, learning, or building. Meanwhile, the average person in North America spends more than 3 hours daily in front of a screen just for entertainment. That's over 1,000 hours a year. Imagine what you could build with that time. Think about a simple example. Someone spends 2 hours a night watching Netflix. Another person spends those same 2 hours writing an ebook, building a website, or learning coding. After a year, one person has entertainment memories. The other has an asset that earns money. Creating doesn't always mean starting a business. It can be learning a new skill that increases your income. It can be building a side hustle. It can be producing content that helps others. It can be reading books that expand your perspective. Creation compounds. The more you build, the more valuable your time becomes. Consumption doesn't compound. It ends the moment you stop. Ask yourself, what did you create this week? Did you write something? Did you learn something? Did you build something that didn't exist before? Every hour you spend creating is an investment in your future. Every hour you spend only consuming is an opportunity lost. The wealthiest people in the world are not the biggest consumers. They are the biggest creators. So if you want to join them, start small. Write down one thing you'll create this week. It could be a new budget plan, a small side project, or even just a new skill. Build momentum from there. Because wealth is built by creating value, not by endlessly consuming it. Once you start creating, the next level is learning to think from first principles. First principles thinking means questioning everything. It means breaking problems down to their most basic truths. It means refusing to accept limits just because that's how things have always been. Most people think in comparisons. They say this business looks like that one. This investment is similar to that investment. But first principles thinking asks, what are the fundamentals? What do I know is absolutely true? And how can I rebuild from there? Look at Elon Musk and rockets. Everyone assumed rockets had to be expensive. That's just the way it was. Musk broke it down to materials and processes. He asked, what does steel cost? What does fuel cost? What does labor cost? By starting from first principles, he found ways to cut costs dramatically. Now think about your own finances. People say groceries are expensive, but if you break it down, you see where the money really goes. Restaurant food, prepared meals, name brands. From first principles, you realize cooking at home with simple ingredients saves thousands a year. Or take investing. Many people buy stocks because everyone else is buying. That's secondhand thinking. First principles thinking asks, what is this company's core business? What value does it create? What's the demand for its product? When you think this way, you avoid hype and focus on fundamentals. Even in everyday life, first principles thinking gives you clarity. Do you really need 2 cars? Do you really need a bigger house? Do you really need the subscription services you pay for every month? Strip away assumptions, and the truth becomes obvious. Wealthy people use first principles to solve problems others can't. They see opportunities because they don't copy what everyone else is doing. They think deeper. They ask better questions. If you want extraordinary wealth, you can't settle for ordinary thinking. You must build from the ground up. Question everything. Redesign your life around the essentials. That's how breakthroughs happen. These 7 habits: understanding money buys freedom, allowing failure, detaching from outcomes, building an inner scorecard, thinking bigger, creating more than consuming, and applying first principles are the foundation of lasting wealth. They are not quick tricks. They are daily practices. They shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. They transform your relationship with money. The choice is yours. You can keep living by society's script, or you can build your own path. This is the passive path. Here, we make wealth simple and practical. If you found this valuable, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these 7 habits will you start practicing today? Your wealth journey doesn't start tomorrow. It starts right now.